Join me in welcoming Alan McKim. Hey, Alan, how you doing today?
I'm great. How are you, Steve?
I'm doing really well, thanks. So tell us first a little bit about you and how you show up in the world.
Well, I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. Early on, when I started Clean Harbors at 24, I had some experiences, with some other businesses, and decided that I wanted to go and be on my own and start my own company, and that's sort of how I got my beginnings here at Clean Harbors.
And you wrote a book. The book is called Doing the Doing, The Incredible, Improbable Business Journey of Alan McKim and Clean Harbors. Tell us a little bit about just the beginnings of the company and how you got it started.
Sure. So, myself and three other guys started back in 1980, really literally with a truck working out of a garage at my friend's shop. And we went off to start a business of doing tank cleaning and oil spill cleanup work. And this was really at a time when, the EPA was just starting to be formed, and a lot of the regulations around hazardous waste were just starting to be created. And it was a wonderful opportunity for us to be starting out this kind of a business when we did. And, really with $15,000 in capital and a lot of hard work and, a lot of great people, we've been able to build a $5 billion company now with over 20,000 employees. And, so many times people have asked me the story about how it started and why it started and, how it got to be so successful. And so, I really wanted to tell the story, and I'm really excited about the book and how it really takes you through the history of all the ups and downs of starting and growing a company like this.
So if my history is correct, that would have been even before like the Exxon Valdez incident, correct?
Yes, yeah, early on, back in the early '80s, where Exxon was '89, and but all of the events that have taken place around 9/11, the anthrax, issue that we dealt with right after 9/11, a lot of the work around Hurricane Rita and Katrina, uh, the BP oil spill, the great oil spill of 2010, the bird flu cleanup, from the flu in 2015, and then subsequently, even with COVID, doing over 23,000 cleanup responses as part of the COVID pandemic. Clean Harbors really has been involved with every major kind of catastrophic event, including the Exxon Valdez incident. So we have really seen everything that you could think of happen in these past 40 years. And our company has, performed some wonderful services for our world and society.
Wow, yeah, that's a lot of stuff. You don't even think about it, because it's all gone by over the course of the last few years, but well, last a whole bunch of years now. But yeah, that's really cool. Now, in the book, you also talk about some of the things you've done personally. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the things you've done in your personal life as well?
Well, I think one of the things I realized early on as I became successful is I wanted to be involved in charity and philanthropy because I came from real humble beginnings. I didn't have a college degree. I was so extremely fortunate to develop the wealth that I have. And so I've been involved heavily in Northeastern University, for example, and supporting that school that ultimately I went back to and got my master's from. But there's been a lot of other, dozens and dozens of charities, both here in Massachusetts as well as in other areas surrounding where our operations are. So that's something that I've really enjoyed doing. I'm certainly proud father. I've had four children. I now have 11 grandchildren, which, keeps me busy outside of work. And I'm excited to see them grow and watch them, live in their lives now.
So, because of the industry you're in, I mean, back then there was no regulation. Part of the reason why there were some of those spills we're talking about. How has that had an impact on you, and what kind of things have you had to change because of some of the regulations that have come in?
You know, it's what's driven our growth. Actually, these regulations are important for our customers to deal with, and so a big part of sort of our success has been helping those accounts handle their emergency response work or dealing with the new regulations that might be coming. But on the other hand, we've had a change too in regard to how we process waste. For example, we operate a number of incinerators, and we've had to continuously upgrade them to meet the new regulations around air quality, to deal with the standards that now are required for any new plants to be built. We've had to upgrade all our plants. We operate over 100 hazardous waste treatment plants in North America, and so those regulations have impacted us as well as our customers.
Mm, that's amazing. So the company has, tens of thousands of employees. What's it like to go from just a couple of you to having that many people that are in the company?
It's been quite a ride. Early on, the first year in business, we did $600,000 in revenue, and like I say, we just wrapped up a year with $5 billion in revenue, and adding employees, bringing on companies through acquisition. We've done about 70 acquisitions. I think going through that transition has been a real learning experience for me in regard to how do you run a business, first wearing a dozen hats. How do you let go? How do you bring in people that are smarter than you so that you can do things that you're really good at, but you're not good at doing everything, right? And so having those specialists come in and be your partner. I think how to collaborate and work together with an organization, particularly one that you've just acquired. I think that has been an evolution in my life, and something that I'm a lifelong learner. So I really feel that learning how to do that, and how important it was to develop people, and to letting go and let others take on responsibility has been a big part of our success here. I think it's oftentimes when you're a CEO or you're an entrepreneur, you want to control everything. And I think you have to let go, and if you're going to let your business grow. And I think that's something I learned early on in the early 90s, to be honest with you, when I first brought somebody in from outside the company. And I think it's been a tremendous learning experience for all of us.
That was going to be what I was going to ask you is can you give us some secrets in that whole, both learning what you're good at as well as what you're not good at, and then letting go of it when you discover that isn't something you should be doing?
Sure. Well, I think me personally, I think, and even in the book, I kind of had some of the lessons learned that I put in there at the end. But, I think capitalizing the business was so critical for us we went public in 1987, and that allowed us to tap into the public equity market. And then subsequently, we were able to get public debt as well. And as we went through that $100 million phase, I think it was when we really learned that we needed to bring in people from outside to help us grow the business. What I found, is one of the real keys of our success is our focus on technology. And it's one of the areas that I've spent a tremendous amount of my time on, developing proprietary software that really runs what is a very unique business. And so I think, raising capital, making sure that you have strong technology has really enabled us to acquire other businesses and to grow the company quite significantly.
So, in going through the process of writing your book, Doing, the incredible, improbable business journey of Alan McKim and Clean Harbors, um, what was the one thing that kind of was surprising in a good way to you in creating the book?
It took me a couple of years working with Steve and Eric, who helped me along the way here. And I would say that it's been an emotional experience because it brought me back to my childhood and it told the story about how improbable it really was for a kid with my background, a blue collar workforce or family, I should say, and how we were able to get this business up and running and tell that story, which was very personable. And I'm not usually one that likes to talk about myself, and so being able to share my background and share the story was somewhat of an emotional journey for me, going through that 2 year process. But it also, I think, gave me an opportunity to speak to the organization that we have and the people that work for the company and the things that they do every day. Doing the doing is really all about what they do. You know, we handle thousands of emergency responses a year. We handle the majority of the hazardous waste that's generated by industry in Canada and the US. We are by far the leading company in hazardous waste management and emergency response. And so as I continue to write the book and tell the story, it's just been such an honor to work with all of the people that do the doing every day. And that's, I hope that's the message that comes across when people read the book, because that's certainly the one that I wanted to get to share with people.
So what advice do you have for people that are just starting out? What are the things that you know now that you wish you would have known day one?
Well, I bootstrapped this company, and so I think I probably would have. I was only 24, and I didn't have a college degree, and so I didn't have a really good understanding on the finance side. I would say that properly capitalizing a business and not being afraid to give up some ownership early on might have been something that would have helped in those early years, particularly those first 10 and 15 years. Although I took the company public 7 years after starting it, I didn't sell a lot of shares and raise a lot of money for the company. And so the good news is, we were able to hold on to the ownership as a percentage, but we really were never that well capitalized in the early days. And so that would be a big, change that probably I would have made if I could have done it over again, is to be better well capitalized. And I think also recognizing that you go through these economic cycles and you've got to be prepared for both the growth phase as well as the downturns that happen, during recessions and what have you. And we've gone through many of them. And I think for the most part have been able to grow through them by being prepared and having a good plan. But in the early days, certainly those were new experiences for us that we had to challenge ourselves to survive when we had those bad economic times, like in the early 90s here in New England.
It's interesting that you say that, because we're probably headed into another recession and some people are wondering, how do I do it? What's the difference between times when the economy is good and times when the economy is bad? Are there any things that really change in how you approach your business when the economy changes like it is?
I think we really stay close to our headcount because personnel and labor costs are our number one expense here at our company because we are, our workforce basically drives our revenues every day by going out in the field and performing services on our customer sites. So we really manage our headcount quite closely here on a week-to-week basis, really staying within, sort of those constraints that we put in place, especially in times when we might see a downturn happening and our billability might start being reduced. I think we also really look at our capital spending and try to hold on to our cash even more than we normally would, so that if maybe one of our competitors gets unable to, kind of work through this downturn, maybe there's an opportunity for us to use that cash to acquire one of our competitors. And so I think the company has been opportunistic in taking advantage of companies that haven't done a good job of preparing when these oil crashes happen or these recessions happen. And so we are sitting here very well positioned with, $500 million in cash and really in a great, strong financial position to take advantage of a downturn in the market.
You say that number so matter of factly. Um, has it been interesting to go from the place where, you know, $1,000 bill was a huge thing to now where you're getting bills for the hundreds of millions of dollars?
It is amazing. I remember driving to the postal lockbox to see if the checks come in to cover payroll. I remember those days like yesterday. But honestly, I still watch receivables today like I did back then, because, another thing that you have to be concerned about during an economic downturn is customers paying you. And we have a lot of money outstanding. And so we meet on a weekly basis and talk about receivables and days sales outstanding. And I think some of those fundamental things that you learn when you first start a business on a shoestring, I think you carry those every day. I think you really do. You don't forget, because even though the numbers are bigger, more zeros, they can be just as impactful on the downside. So watching cash, watching receivables, watching debt, I think having a good cash position to take advantage of the market is absolutely critical for our success.
I love that. The book is called Doing the Doing: The Incredible, Improbable Business Journey of Alan McKim and Clean Harbors. Such an amazingly great book. So many interesting things, both in Alan's life as well as the growth of a business. I think everybody should read it if they're interested in business. Alan, before we go, leave us with some words of encouragement about our business.
I think, being an entrepreneur has been, the greatest joy in my life, and being able to work with people that I've had amazing experience with. It's been such a pleasure. I have never felt like I've went to work every day. And we've just announced that I'm transitioning to executive chairman. I'm not going to be CEO after 43 years at the end of March. But I am so excited about the company's future. We have two gentlemen that are going to be co-CEOs, Mike Battles and Eric Kirstenberg, that are now going to take over running the business. And I'm excited about them taking it from $5 billion to $10 billion. And I see that runway available to them. And I'm excited to see the next 40 years of the business progress.
I love that. Do you get the book Doing the Doing: The Incredible, Improbable Business Journey of Alan McKim and Clean Harbors? You can get it on Amazon and all the places where books are available. Alan, thanks so much for spending some time with us here today.
Thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it.